journey.
Yeah.
I was planning like whatever. You know how it is.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so last week we learned a piece on ketores, and just like a very short recap, and what we ended off that we still need to be mevar is Rabbi Yaakov explained the inyan of avodah tzarich gevaya, right? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that our avodah is necessary for above, right? Which seems to indicate like that God needs us, and it's obviously not true. So he the way he was magdir is that it's all completely the ratzon of Hashem. It's not there's no hechreach, right? There's no real need of Hashem. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu willed that things should be led in this world. He will respond to the way we do things. Okay, and in that way he was mafkid. He gave us a certain control, but it's not real control because it's just based. It's just on his will. That's the way he sets it up, and of course he can stop it at any moment, so he chooses. But the point is that obviously, on the one hand, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't need us. On the other hand, yes, everything that we do, all our avodas Hashem, is what's called tzarich gevaya. And Rabbi Yaakov explained that it is very, very important to have that understanding that what we do is tzarich gevaya. In other words, he says we have to have this balance of understanding. Yes, there's a tzarich gevaya, our avodah is needed, and on the other hand, it's not coming from any hechreach klapi HaKadosh Baruch Chas v'shalom, but rather mitek ratzon bo. We need both those sides. Those both are. It's like a paradox in a certain sense, and we need both because to be motivated to do Torah mitzvahs, a person needs to feel that his actions are meaningful. Right? Today we live in the meaningful times. Right? Everything's meaningful. There's a few big words today: meaningful, authentic. It's like you just have to say that, and you're in. Okay, so it's important to understand that it's meaningful to be authentic. And in any case, the idea is that people don't do things. In general, it's very difficult for people to do things if they think that what they're doing doesn't really matter, doesn't really have an effect. So Rabbi Yaakov says it's very, very important for being mischazik all the time, for getting stronger and stronger in Kiyum HaTorah in Klal Yisrael. That is very dependent on our understanding that there is this tzarich gevaya. We know there's multiple sources for this. In the Psukim, already Tnu oiz l'Elokim, give strength to God, right? As if we give strength to God. Again, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu set up the system, is that He's going to reveal Himself and Kiviyachol become stronger. His presence will become stronger in our world based on our actions. Okay, now, so Rabbi Yaakov said, though, in order for any lofty concept to kind of penetrate our psyche for real and make it, impact us in a real way, we need to always bring it into some practical level. There needs to be some kind of practical kli that brings us in. I mentioned that that's really Ramban that says Ache Techbas, right? That in Torah says Ava Ache Techbas, you awaken the Ava until you entered into a chayfetz. Anytime a person has this iris, says the Ramban, it's not enough just to walk away and say, wow, that was gishmak. You have to say, wait, how can I implement something from this as iris? How can I put it into a chayfetz? I need something practical. So says Rabbi Yaakov, we need there are two practical mitzvahs that impart this concept of avodah tzarich gevaya, this paradox, if you'd like, into our lives. And that are these two mitzvahs of hadlakas haneris in the Beis Hamikdash and the ketores. Hadlakas haneris and the ketores. And he went on to explain that the hadlakas haneris teaches us that the Shekhinah is Shayr b'Yisrael. And he says that the Hashras HaShechina is based in Israel with the understanding, what Chazal tell us, that he doesn't need the oir. Shalayla oira hu tzarach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't need the light. It's not like we're lighting candles for him so he can see. We're lighting neiros so he can see. No, he doesn't need the light. But rather, that's what he wanted. That's the mitzvah ata titzaveh as b'nei Yisrael. And he also went on to say that the mahus of true dvekus is when something never ceases. True dvekas is something that can't be stopped. It can't be stopped. It's inherently always b'dvekus. And that's the dvekas of Klal Yisrael HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not a dvekas mikris that just happens to be that right now things are good and they're dovek by Hashem. No, it's an inherent dvekas that can never ever be seized, and sometimes it goes hidden. Okay, and he says that the main cause of that going into hiding is for some kind of lack of understanding that we may have of this idea of avodah tzarech gavoya. It's interesting, like he holds it psychologically somewhere, our lack of appreciation or lack of understanding that our avodah is really necessary, kiviyachol for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is what's behind this kind of going underneath, the going concealed, that dvekas between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, and so that's, he said the thing that brings to that gilu of the continuous dvekas is the lahalois ner tamid. Lahalois ner tamid. Right? There's this inyan of tamid, it's the lahalois ner tamid, that's showing this continuous dvekas with us. Now, I wanted to add to this, I realized that I didn't have time to get into it last week because it was already late. I will add a little bit to it. There's a kavana, a meditation in that Arizal teaches us, which comes up in Ner Chanukah as well, but it comes up every day in Sim Shalom, which is called the kavana of Ner. Okay, the kavana of Ner, and that is really this idea of dvekas in Hashem on all levels. Okay, and that is there's the name Yudke Vavke Havaya Eke, Havaya Elikim, and Havaya Adni. Okay, that zivug between, right? The Yudke Vavke always represents the male component, and then there's three levels of Yudke Vavke, and they're all Yudke Vavke, but then there's three levels of the female component, which was Eke, right, from the Lashon Eke Asher Eke, which is one of the Shemus of Hashem, Eke, and Elikim, and Adnis. And these are three levels of connection that we have. The Havaya Eke is what's called in the Rosh, okay, this is the Chabad. The Havaya Elikim is at the Chagat level, and which is the midsection of the person, and the Havaya Adne is the lowest level of connection, which is of the Yesod level. That's the bottom level of Netzach Hod Yesod, and that's a Shleimus. That zivuk is representing that we are connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on all levels of machshava, dibur, and maisa, or machshava, midos, and maisa. Okay, on all levels we are completely dovek b'Hashem, and that's mala ner tamid. Is that we always have to have. That it's not only we have to have, but that's always kayim. It's always there. We are revealing it, right, through our Shemon Esrei. We're revealing it through Ner Chanukah. We're revealing it different instances where we have this. This kavana. Fine. So that's the inyan of the ner, and then he says the inyan of the ketores is to be magala matzpunam shel Yisrael, the concealed aspect of the Jewish people. That also the paishei Yisrael, also the sinners of Israel, are like the chelbana, which is the bad odor spice, right? That mitzdarif with the rest of the samamani ketores, and is mala'oshen and nisreach, and he brings from the Gemara Saita that the inyan of smell relates to tara, relates to purity, right? A good, full, powerful ability of smell is based on purity, and he says so that the ketores is really be mevarer that there will not remain chas v'shalom any tumah in Klal Yisrael, because ultimately Klal Yisrael is pure. The inner koyach of the Jewish people is one of purity, and thus one of ketores, one of this good smell. We know that ketores also is a lashon of kesher. Okay, the tes and the shin can sometimes kind of switch, and the Zohar talks about it's an inyan of kesher. It makes a kesher between Klal Yisrael, right? Even the Paishim Shabbat Yisrael is part of this connection, and of course with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So I ended off like, okay, so that's what Rebecca Moshe said. But what does this Neiros, what is this inyan of Hadlakas and Neiros and the ketores? How do they bring in this concept of Avodah Tzarech Gavaya? So I think that the vart is is the Hadlakas Neiros is focused on the Shechina, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the ketores is focused on us. So the ketores, the Hadlakas Neiros, okay, which is this idea is that the Shechina is always in Yisrael, and loyla oyrehu tzarech, he doesn't need our light. We don't need to give him anything. That's obviously the idea that although there's an avodah tzarech gavana, ultimately HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't need us at all. So the answer is no, he doesn't need us, right? But on the other hand, we have this idea of ketores, and the ketores is our is from the aspect of the Jew, the aspect of the Jewish people, which is even the Poishei Yisrael, even the sinners of Israel are part and parcel of Klal Yisrael, and therefore ultimately are bringing up the reach and connection of purity to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on some deep level. Okay, so that is already representing the aspect of avodah tzarech gavoya, is that our avodah is doing something. And on some level, even the Chelvana is doing something. Okay, so that's the. So that's the. That's what I believe is. So we're in other words. So we have this representation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu not needing us in the Neiros. We have a representation of needing our avodah in the ketores, and those two, bring this together within us. That's unfortunately now. We don't have lozeh v'lozeh, and that's why this also remains concealed. Why things are very concealed in the Zman of the Churban, Zman of the Galus. Okay, so Adkan as a hashlama for the previous year. Now we'll continue on to the next piece in this section of ketores. Says Rabbi Yaakov Moshe, I just found, but I don't remember where I found it. I remember where I found it. Let me just see. Hold on a minute. Let's see if I could. Yeah. So before, actually, just to end off what we just spoke, because I mentioned that there was a big controversy over a year ago. I don't remember exactly. Maybe 2 years ago, even. I don't remember. Of some famous speaker who said Hashem needs us more than God needs us more than we need Him. And Rabbi Aaron Feldman came out very strongly against him, and so I said that the shir that we were doing last week, and now continue this, is relevant to that. It happens to be, I just literally happened upon the following Ramchal and Adar Marom. I was learning Adar Marom of the Ramchal for a completely different thing, and I just happened to come across the following line. He says that he goes into the pasuk Ani Rishon V'Ani Achron, and he says this Yesod, okay, for anyone that wants to look at it in the Rav Spinner edition, it's on the lines, and I'm going to read it from page Shin Tzadi Hey. I'm going to recap a little bit from page Shin Tzadi Daled, and he says that whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided that He's going to bring into the world and reveal into the world, that was the starting point of after the Tzimtzum. And then when we get back at the end of the days, at the end, the Seifa, right? That's the Reisha, and when we get to the Seifa, we get to the end of everything, we're going to be revealing that, and no more than what was already there. And the Reb Chal now says, this is very important to understand. We're never going to be revealing more than what HaKadosh Baruch Hu set out to reveal at point A. Okay? And he says, and that's what he says, Ani Rishon V'Ani Achron. It's that same Bechina. Whatever the Ani is, the Ani, the self, that He's going to express to us, right, which is always just a piece of His infinity, right, a tiny, whatever, Nekuda of His infinity, and even that Nekuda is infinite, okay, which we can't wrap our heads around, but that's, so, it's going to be that same Ani, which is the Rishon, and that's the same Ani Achron. And he says, "Ve'im haya metzius revach gilu yoser." If there was a possibility of gaining even more of a gilui, right? If it could be that at the end of everything, through our avodah and whatever it is, that we're going to reveal more than what He set out to at the beginning, v'toy yoser, and would be even better. Hine haya nikra shamatzil yisbarach shma haya tzarich lenivrav. That would be called that the Matzil Yisbarach Shema, the emanator, God, needs his creations. V'zeh einoi v'adai. And that's for certainly not true. So that's the Ramchal on that controversy, which you don't need the Ramchal for, but he says, I happen to find it, this week, Ashkacha Pratis, came across this line. So that's Pasha, that no matter how wonderful a speaker, no one's going to be able to change that. God doesn't need us. He set up a system where of avodah tzarich gavaya. Huh? Yeah, the particular line, that sentence is on page Shin Tzadi Hey. Yeah. Okay. Now let's see what we can. So it says Rabbi Yaakov Moshe, Kol koyach hara noitza b'shvila b'chira. The whole power.
What page are we on?
What's that?
What page are we on, Yaakov Moshe?
Oh, what page in the new one? What? Kuf Lamed Hey. In the new Maroms, if anyone has the old Marom, it's on page Kuf Nun Zayin. So it says, Kol koyach hara noitza b'shvila b'chira. All power of evil was developed, was formed for bechira, that we should have free choice. And therefore it is necessary that this power remains only in a potential state and is not actualized, chas v'shalom. And truthfully, as long as it's in its potential state and not actualized, it's not even in an aspect of Ra. We wouldn't call that Ra. It's the shorish of Ra, right? Because its whole purpose is the most amazing fortune, is the greatest fortune. The fortune of free will. That's amazing, right? That makes us godly. That's a big purpose. With that koach, right, we become included with this koach with the koach bechira of God, and become united in the secret of echad with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The echad, because it's echad lo sheni, because the ra hasn't materialized. That would be the case. V'zeh poyelim bebechira, and that we effectuate with bechira. We join the chelbana together with all the other spices of the ketores, and it brings up the smoke, that the smoke should go up straight, and doesn't get, go crooked to the sides, meaning it doesn't actually get materialized. Right? The crookedness is when the ra becomes materialized, right? The chelbana going up straight, or the usher going up straight, is the idea that things are going straight the way they should be, because Baruch Hu created us yashar. Right? Yashar is kedusha. The akmimus is where things go wrong. Va'az gam hu kaddish, and then the chelbana is also kaddish. The koyach hara is also kaddish at that point. When it's a koyach hara that shaloi b'fayel, it's also kaddish. Kolma, that of course you see in Chazal, toiv ma'oid, right? The Yetzer Hara, the Satan is the toiv ma'oid. It's an enhancement of the toiv when it's not actualized. Kol ma shemegalim yosef emet tu'udata shel hachelbana. I want to say more than that also. At the end of days, when everything is going to go back, and the Yetzer is going to be nishchat, and the Satan is going to be nishchat, so then retroactively, it's again going to be brought back into its oneness of toiv, so it kind of like, it will reverse. It actualized, but it actualizes back to the point of its destruction, being sucked up back into the toiv, and thus now like non-actualized again in that sense. Okay. Now, kol ma shemegalim yosers emes tudasa shel chelbana. As much as we or the more we reveal the true purpose of the chelbana, the shorish hara, the root of evil, she'ein lo shayches liyatzil ha'poel, it has no shayches to going out into actuality, ubimkoyer b'koyach u'poel ha'toiv l'havias osher b'chira, and at its source, in the potential, it works for the good to bring the fortune of b'chira, umashlam b'zeh ros tzelem elakim shesayda b'chira, and he completes with this the secret of the tzelem elakim, whose side is b'chira, right? Our tzelem elakim is the fact that we can choose like God. Kol sheyodim ezois, the more we know this, yoser meginim is a shalit l'poel, the more we protect with this that the Ra should never become materialized. Because that the actualization of the Ra is in the aspect of what's called too much, yeser, excess. The idea of excess. And we have a Yesod in Shas that any excess is like as if it's missing. Okay? So if you have the excess of the Ra, you've X'd the Ra. You've taken away its whole purpose, which is one of serving good. That's the inyan of ketores. It's what reveals the root of this truth. The chelbona is the prime example of the idea that when you have the koyach hara as a part of the bundle where it doesn't become actualized in its own, but rather is miskal together with everything, then it's wonderful. Because it's enhancing the good. Look, this person's doing good without ever turning to the sides, without ever going crooked, without ever going to let the chelbana take over, right? Adrabah, the chelbana wants to be a part of it, right? That's gavaldik. And that's how it's ma'akeves es ha'magefa. Lefichach ma'akeves ha'magefa. That's how it prevents plague. Ha'magefa ruchnis shel yitzias she'ezel lepoyel. It's a mistake. Over by you it says hamagefa now. It should be hein. It says hein over there. Or they put in the word hein? No, it's missing. It should be word hein hamagefa ruchnis shelitzia she'ezel apoyel ve'hein hamagefa chamres. This is true of both a spiritual plague, where this root goes out, the root of evil goes out into actualization, and it's also true of the physical plague, because obviously when push comes to the shav, it's all coming. Everything is ruchnis. The magefa chamres. The physical magefa, the physical plague, ultimately stems from a spiritual source. So basically, there's no makom for plague once I am megala the truth of this emes. I guess the magefa is basically, what's the idea of magefa? Magefa is where misa goes uncontrolled, right? That's the idea of a magefa. Shasa magefa is misa. It's not the typical, it's not the regular misa. It's out of control misa. Out of control misa is because of out of control ra that's been actualized way too much. But when I now am megala the fact that no, this ra in its shirish is wonderful and is supposed to serve the purposes of going to not be actualized, when I'm ma'or that idea of which is this whole idea of the ketores, I am getting to the root and undermining the ability of magefa. Okay, fine. Ad kan for today. I'm sorry about the electric problem over there, and thus the shir becoming a little bit later. But hope you enjoy. Okay, good luck to anyone. Any ha'aras questions?
Shikayach, good to walk.
Okay, good luck.
That's what the Rav wants to say.
Not the hadlakas neris. Yeah, not the hadlakas neris is lahalis ner tamid. Yeah.
But you also have the lashon tami by the ketores.
Right.
So you say that there's
It's
two
a different tamid, but the same idea. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Shkoyach.
Shkoyach.
Okay. Good to see you. Good to see you. Shavua tov.